Go for it.
Got it. Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon,
guys.
good now, as we like to say, whenever you're watching this or hearing this. This is Jason Michael and
Other Grace.
lovingly known as the Powers of Love. And we are so grateful for your time that you're with us. And we invite you to really strap on in, because we are going to go for a ride. We're going to go to the summits. We're going to talk about big visions, big dreams, success in who and what you are, and how important that is in your personal life and in your relationship. And we are so, so grateful to have our dear, dear friend, a friend of mine that I've known since my Hollywood actor days. We've done improv together. We've created from the 0 point, from nothing, and created magic. Jeff Patterson is a master success coach and recently an amazing author that has written a book that I believe every person needs in their home and in their heart. It is called The Big Thing Effect. And we're going to dive into, really what that is. And I just thank you, Jeff, for taking the time out in beautiful Aspen, Colorado, in your gorgeous home there, and taking a moment, because you've been busy reading this book, sharing this book, really unpacking this book of how this has had an effect on you and how it's having an effect on others. So welcome. Man.
Yeah, I just want to add, we're super excited about this conversation. As we were reading the introduction and getting it, we could both feel our temperature rising. You pose this question of what is your big thing? And I'm so excited to hear what your journey has been in discovering your own and helping others. But I can just say, just the introduction alone really ignited conviction, actually. And that's what we hope, anybody who watches walks away with more clarity on what it is that you're here to do in the world. So thank you. We're super excited you're here.
Thank you. Honored to be here too, you guys.
Yeah. So this book has been a birthing process, not a 9-month as some birthing patterns can be. But how long has it been that this book has been on your heart before it launched?
Well, the message in the book has been on my heart and in me to share for decades. But the actual writing of the book has taken me about 7 years, to full completion.
So let's get right to it. So what this big thing effect, Jeff, what is a big thing?
It begs the question, doesn't it? I mean,
yeah, totally.
A
big thing.
What is this big thing? A big thing is more than just a goal. It's a mountaintop daring you to touch it. It's a pulse deep within our heart and soul that is calling us to do something that is really genuine and authentic to us. It's a heart and soul want. And sometimes it's just an inkling, and we get a sense that we know there's more for us, and we may not be clear on what the big thing is, but we know there's something. And as I really talk about in the book, it's so important to go on that journey to clarify your big thing. It's one thing to get the answer and to have a big thing and turn that big thing into a project, but the actual art of exploring what your big thing is uncovers and puts you in touch with parts of yourself that in many cases have been dormant.
That's how do you go about the process of discovering whether what you're tuning into inside of yourself is a goal or actually a big thing? Because I think goals often can get confused with that passionate fire.
Totally. Well, I lay out in the book the 7 key markers of a big thing. And that's, putting your big thing or your goal up against these 7 check marks is a great first start. First and foremost, as I mentioned, a big thing is a deep longing. It's something you deeply want to do. So there's a deep want. Secondly, it scares you. A goal may not necessarily scare you, but your big thing will, because your big thing is bigger than the average goal. It represents something that you haven't done, and it represents a part of you that is dormant inside that's trying to get out. So the second piece is that your big thing scares you. The third thing, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Heather. You were going to ask a question.
Just clarifying. I just, when I hear you talk about this thing that scares you inside, it feels like very similar to what, you get to that core wound, or maybe the most vulnerable part of yourself that has represented maybe some of the challenges and obstacles in life, and getting down to that is like stripping all of that away for the gold. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, well, that's actually one of the elements. What keeps us back in life, is usually something buried deep within, a decision we've made, a mindset, a self-identity of who we perceive ourselves to be. Mm-hmm. And if our goals or what we want in life are out of alignment with that self-identity, one of two things has to happen. We either have to dumb down the goal, or we have to elevate our psychology. Mm-hmm. One of the true gifts of a big thing is that it quickly brings to the surface the block that is in the way, not just of your big thing, but the block that is in the way of everything in your life. Mm-hmm. It's one of the fastest ways to draw it to the surface. However, it's one of the main reasons why many people back off even the exploration of their big thing. Yeah. Because that starts to come forward and a person thinks, oh no, this feels really unsettling. This can't be good. I'll do this when I feel a little bit more confident, a little more settled. But that day never comes. Yeah. Because the second you start to get back in touch with it, up comes the block that comes with it. So saying yes to your big thing requires a vulnerability, a willingness to dance with and experience the vulnerability that comes with some of that doubt, second guessing, and some of the smaller identities that we might have about ourselves.
Well, let's revisit. It's interesting you say that, because just yesterday we were talking about what it means to live on the edge. And it's in the edge that we truly grow. It's on that edge, and we're really here as evolutionary lovers, evolutionary beings, evolutionary souls, not willing to just settle into the consensus, but to stretch and to constantly be on that edge. And it is uncomfortable. It is very vulnerable. It's scary. It brings anxiety. It brings all kinds of things, but I don't know if I could ever live any way else, but I know that that's where the growth happens. And that's a beautiful point of that big thing that's going to call you forth. It's your soul's calling. It's kind of a seed idea that's been placed in your soul, when I believe as souls, we volunteered and said, look, I'm going to be here on a planet at this time, that the seed that I have is so important. We're going to talk about what that effect is. But
feels like a whole different perspective on shadow work too, because I love what you're saying. Is that thing that is like the passion, the inkling of something that you can emerge to become, that you were designed to become, but it's not just delving into the shadows for the sake of trying to fix yourself. It's like it totally puts it upside down and pulls you out to see those things, but for a greater cause.
Yes. Yeah. Beautifully said, Heather. I think that's one of the real inspiring effects of the big thing effect, is that by going for and committing to your big thing, you draw up the block or the little patterns and ways of being that are in the way. And then when you address them for your big thing, they're now gone everywhere. They're gone out of your relationship. They're gone out of your health. And I just think going and looking for issues to heal is one way of going about it, but knowing what you're playing for and having a greater purpose that is really connected to your heart and soul, like you said, now there's a greater reason to do it. And you realize, oh, not only am I growing, not only am I transforming, but I'm transforming so that I can really do what I came here to do. And for whatever reason, that really puts it in a simple context that I think all of us can buy into.
Talk about a whole different motivation. Yeah.
Because we can get stuck. We know in our own personal life and relationship, we can stuck in the traumas and dramas and the shadowlands. And, it's just like climbing a mountain, which very well. You talk about in the beginning of your book that this is kind of, and I would love to touch on that, but I don't want to interrupt what you're talking about here, is these specific portals to know how to really clarify your big thing. But would you mind pausing for that for a second, Jeff, and revisiting that? Just talk about like what happened, that really catalyzed how important a big thing in your life is.
Yeah, absolutely. We can pause the 7 telltale signs of a big thing. Well, one of my passions in life has been inspiring and uplifting people. That originally led me to Hollywood to want to inspire many people through media, through acting, through writing. And I had some success in that realm. Jason, we knew each other back in the 90s, in some of those days. And that led me to being in front of millions of people. And that dream manifested, maybe not completely to the degree that I wanted to, but eventually I lost passion for acting and I got scared. I'm like, wait a minute, my North Star is gone. Yet there were I knew there was still something there, but it didn't feel like it was acting or being in front of the camera in that way. And that's when I went on this journey to really figure out what was wrong, because I'd been so inspired. And the short of what I found was I got back in touch with my big thing, which was greater than acting. It was actually inspiring and uplifting and coaching people to do their big thing. And so I asked myself that question, what's my big thing? What's the thing I really want to do? And when I slowed down, and it took me some time, but I had to step off of the busyness of my Hollywood career. I was still going on auditions. I was still working. I was still supplementing my income. But I began exploring this question, what's my big thing? And it brought me back to center, to the real impetus. And I had this light bulb moment when I realized it's not acting that I was really in Hollywood for. It was inspiring and uplifting. And when I saw that, I made a pivot because I felt that I could do it more directly through coaching, speaking, and writing. And so that, I think we have big things at different moments. Sometimes they deepen and they get clearer and they're larger, or sometimes they shift and it's something different. But saying yes to that thing that you're wanting to do, we get up in our heads, we justify why we shouldn't, why we can't. I've got responsibilities, I've got a family, and all of those reasons don't really matter to the soul.
Yeah.
Because it longs to create.
We were reading about, we were reading just this morning, the introduction, of how important, and it reminded me of a couple things. Somebody who I believe all three of us really love, and his presence is with us, is Dr. Wayne Dyer. And he had said that Jeff and I would have these conversations when we were young actors. We knew that there was something else in our hearts. It wasn't just acting. We knew that we were here to be, to leave an imprint, to leave something on somebody's heart, no matter where we were. And I always honored that in you and mirrored that. I felt that in my own heart. But Wayne Dyer said, don't die with your music still inside you. And that has stayed with me since the moment I heard it in the 90s, of like, what is that thing, that music? And as a songwriter, singer, I know that you resemble that as well, right?
I do. Well, it's, one of the things that you said in the introduction was really powerful related to that the thing that you had, the big thing right now doesn't mean that it's always going to be the big thing, but that next big thing really leads us deeper and deeper into maybe what's possible that we don't even know is possible at this point. And I know, just as an artist, like we all are, if we're not doing that thing, we're half cocked, really. It's like there's something so missing from driving the life. It's like the life force is just so depleted.
And I think the other part was that it reminds me of my favorite movie of all time, The Never-Ending Story, where young Sebastian is having, there's a dream, there's something happening, there's a living story that wants to breathe through him. And he's fighting his own doubts and going, I need to keep my feet on the ground. I need to stay here. No, this can't be real. Dreams can't be real. But we learn in Fantasia that the nothing is coming and destroying Fantasia. And I truly was impacted in 1984 when I saw that movie, that how important it is to keep the dreams alive, to follow your dream, to remember your dream. And we have too many souls on the planet now that just have stopped dreaming and stopped believing that their little thing. And I love how you differentiate a big thing. A big thing may not be a big thing it's not compare your big thing to your big thing. It's like your big thing is your big thing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, you said it, it's important not to compare, because what's big to you may not be big to another. And sometimes your big thing is actually smaller than something you've done, but it requires more of you and it requires you to grow in order to realize it. I've had, a number of clients over the years who have, been extremely successful, have achieved everything they could in their industry. They have nothing left to do in terms of, checking the boxes. And then they had a deep calling to do something simple like open a coffee shop, with a deeper purpose. And it was difficult for them to commit to that because they're like, what are my friends going to say? I've built companies, I've built billion-dollar companies, and I'm being called to open a coffee shop. This is ridiculous. Like, who, sometimes our big thing is very different in it represents big growth. It represents your authentic big thing, not to be compared. And this is a good time to kind of come back to those seven telltale signs, because number 3 is you think it's impossible, or you may think it's impossible. A big thing will have you questioning your sanity, and a big thing at some point in time, you'll be like, I don't know that this is really possible, either generally, or the timing, or your ability to get it done, or the timing. So that's number 3, is you think it's impossible. Number 4, you're not clear on how to get it done. And that's one of the big trips for most people, and even clarifying their big thing is they have no clue how to get it done because it's so big. When I saw myself and I had a dream of moving to Hollywood and inspiring millions of people through television and film, I didn't know a soul in Hollywood. I had no idea how I was going to get there. And so that's the hard part. It's like, that's ridiculous. And everybody around me said, that's a pipe dream. You need to choose something a little more realistic. And everybody has their own story of that. I'm not unique in that. But the how will elude you if it's a big thing. Number 5 is you can't do it alone. You need help. Number 6 is you must transform. You cannot realize your big thing by being who you're being currently. And what I mean, and we'll come back to these, but what I mean to say by that, it doesn't mean that we're not capable. It doesn't mean that we're lacking. It's actually the opposite. We're infinite beings. I would say we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And in order to do our big thing, we must let go of some of the limiting stories and ideas and psychology that have kept us playing small. And so that represents a transformation of you becoming more of actually who you already are. And this is the true magic, the true transformative effect of the big thing. Because like I said before, you either dumb down the dream to fit your psychology, or you elevate the psychology in the way of being to match the big thing. And when you elevate that, it elevates it across every area of your life. And when you do that, your life explodes. And that's the real X factor that really is powerful about the big thing effect. And then number 7, finally, is that it's bigger than you. You need help. You can't do it alone, as I mentioned, but it serves others than just you. If your big thing only impacts you, then it's not a big thing. It's a goal and it's great. And you maybe should do it, but it's not a big thing. So these 7 things.
That ties, that 7th key that you just mentioned ties into the 7th key of what we've spoken a lot about in Andrew Harvey and Chris Sade's work of evolutionary love relationship. And they talk about that important piece of relationship, that there is a something calling you forth. It's not just your own service. And that's really what, I mean, here we are now, this Powers of Love Facebook group, this thing is we're here with you, Jeff, because we relate to this, and this is how we coach our clients in working with something that have something inside your relationship that is calling you forth and calling us. Because I was married once before Heather. Heather was married twice before me. We've been in the mess of marriage, and being in partnership with this goal of going, you know what, this isn't just for us. This is something, there's something that we're doing here, catalyzing, allowing that calling to transform our lives every single day. And truly, what is that calling is the power of love. That love is the most powerful force in the universe. And when you apply it and allow it to come into your mind, heart, and soul, and you allow it to give out from your heart, mind, and soul in greater capacity every single day, month, year, you are a transformed being, and you are actually a transformative field of energy.
I would love to know, along these lines, like somebody's listening to this and you've given us kind of an idea of the process you go through, but how do you get started? How do you even pack your bag to climb this mountain? What do you need? What do you need to get started?
Well, to get started, you need the hunger or the willingness to clarify your big thing. It starts with the intention. I am going to clarify my big thing. I know it's in there. I have no clue, or I have an inkling, or I know exactly what it is. We're all in different spectrums at any given time. But it starts by saying, I'm going to clarify. And as I talk about in the book, just clarifying your big thing will change your life. If that's all you do, to just clarify it and say, that's my big thing. I know what it is. That's it. Now, if you declare it and you commit to it and build your life around it, things will explode in a wonderful way. But just clarifying it already has a transformative power. I give lots of stories in the book, my own included, where just clarifying my big thing took me on a journey. So I think it starts with just intending to clarify and saying, you know what, over these next 3 months or this next 6 months or a year, it doesn't take that long, honestly, but you could give yourself some time to explore it. If you've been really avoiding it and you've really been super distracted, you might need a little more time. But just start by saying, I'm going to give myself this time and I'm going to set on the journey to clarify my big thing, and start there. And it really, there's lots of things you can do. I give a lot of exercises in the book to do that, but it must start with a decision to clarify.
There's something I want to ask you. In the book you talk about, is it SVS? Is this a disease of the human? SVS? What is SVS, Jeff?
You really teed that up beautifully, Jason. Just threw me a nice big old softball right there.
So we do an improv, man.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's all about, Well, SVS is small vision syndrome, and it is a malady that's wormed its way into the psychology of mankind, I think around the world, but especially in our culture. And it is the affliction of focusing more on circumstances, more on what we're afraid of, rather than on what our dreams are and what we most want to create and what's possible. If I just look around the world and say, well, this is what the world is, and this is all that's possible, I'm just reacting to life, versus looking at what I want to create, what I'm called to create, and what's possible. That's creating life. So SVS is just the byproduct of being so consistently focused on circumstances and our concerns that we get hypnotized into thinking that's all there is and that's all that's possible. And that begins to bring down the ceiling of what's possible for us and what's possible for the world. And we are in a evolutionary time on this planet, in my humble opinion, where we must break these chains and listen to what we're really being called to do, not what our families or our employers or our spouses think we should do, what we genuinely in our heart and soul are being called to do. If we do that, we all, I believe, become pieces of a greater puzzle, and we snap those pieces into place and it works. And most importantly, it feels good. Life is fulfilling when we're pursuing what's really calling us.
Oh, man, this is so good. I mean, it's like the inverse of the shadow in every way, because you can see when you're always having your attention upon the possibility and what is fulfilling and joyful in our life, rather than trying to always be in this place of fixing what's wrong, but that just the psychology of that has its own vibration. And so you can see just in all of our relationships with life, if we get stuck at trying to work things out in this human way, rather than something that's calling us forward from our soul, which is why we're here, this just changes everything.
And it just, I can tell you that, I mean, in these last 3 years, we're in a crisis on the planet, a crisis of faith, a crisis of heart, a crisis of community, a crisis of oneness, of where, we're in a dualistic perceptive, and we're just reacting, as you said, we're just working, it's scarcity. We're working on security. We just want to make sure we stay alive and keep our job, We make sure that, I don't offend anybody. I just, I'm in crisis management, and how important it is. I remember I had a signature on my emails for a long time. I can't remember the exact quote who did it, but what is needed on the planet right now is more people that have come alive, because we are in a zombie apocalypse, in my opinion, in a lot of ways, because of this very thing, because we're sold and fed, spoon-fed fear. If you're tuning into the mainstream, and you're just in crisis management, fear is just dominating people's hearts. And so we just want to make sure we keep our job and we do what's right, and we just toe the line. And so, not only there's a virus called SVS that is sweeping the planet, that is clouding our mind and keeping us playing small in our worlds. And this, I would love to, what is the effect? I mean, I'm sure we're tapping into the effect. What is the effect of people living in their big thing?
Well, I think even before going there, we have to acknowledge the quiet desperation that is happening and happens in all of us when we get hypnotized into thinking that all that's possible is what's already here. The darkest moments of my life, and I've had a lot of them, have not been because of what's been happening around me. It's because inside of me, I've been hyper-focused on what I'm afraid of. That's SVS. And did I cut out there for a second?
Yeah, a little bit there,
yeah. You're back.
So I was just saying that it's really important to acknowledge what happens when we're in SVS and how dark it can feel, because our focus is on what we fear, what we don't want in the circumstances. And it's really important to get honest about that. And as you pointed to, Heather, it's really about that focus. We feel what we focus on. So in fear, it's easy to blame the media, and it's easy to blame Twitter and, all these other entities outside of us, the media, for the issues with fear. But all of our issues are inside of us, and it's what we focus on, and we have dominion over what we focus on. So we have to be careful not to put it outward. I mean, I agree with everything that you're saying, because those algorithms and things really magnify what you're focused on. But getting real with what happens when you really focus on SVS, because I think that has a lot of people depressed. I think a lot of young people, really can benefit by focusing on what they really want. So again, focusing over there. And then in terms of shifting over to your big thing, this is the thing that I think is so incredibly powerful about the big thing. We can't motivate each other, really. I can't truly motivate you. The greatest thing I could do is maybe help you clarify and help you to see your big thing. Because once you see your big thing, you will break through walls to deliver on it, because it's that powerful thing inside of you. So when people come to my office to coach them, I am not trying to create magic and motivate them. I help them connect to the thing that is the most important. And when that happens, they are unleashed. They have something that is pulling them rather than the fear pushing them. And that is the transformational power of the big thing. Because when you clarify that, it's like lassoing a bucking bronco, and it is going to pull you out of your psychology, out of your limitation, into places that you've been truly, deeply desiring.
Oh man, that is so good. I love what you also said. You said you feel what you focus on. That breaks it down to such simplicity, because if you're focused on what is pulling and that you're being pulled forward, it's not like this idea of discipline that so many people dread, and all of these things that are related to motivation that end up feeling more disillusioning than they are encouraging and motivating. And to have something that you're focused on that really pulls you forward, that just changes, physiologically speaking, it changes things, I think. Is that true?
I would agree with that. That's definitely true in my life, and the people that I coach, and the people, it's what I see in the world. One other thing important to say is everybody has within them at any given time a big thing. Now, a lot of people push back, especially people that may be retired or they've already achieved a lot in their life. But this isn't just about achieving. This isn't just about career. This is distinct from success. This is the thing that your heart is being called to do. And in different seasons, we're called to do different things. If you're 80, you might be called to really leave a legacy and maybe share some of your wisdom with your family or with the world, can look different. You're not going to build a new company necessarily at 80. And a number of people that have read my book, they've said, wow, I really didn't think I had one. I was just kind of reading to be nice, but then I caught a hold of it and I got in touch with something. And again, they had to really slow down to listen to what it was, not what they thought it should be. But everybody has one at any given season if you will slow down and listen. And that's the exciting thing, whether you're 18 or 83, there's a big thing in you. And if you clarify it, it'll awaken something in such a special way that nothing else can quite do.
I love what you said there, slow down and listen. And that is when the awakening begins. And it's slowing down. We're just moving so fast, and to slow down and truly listen. And that's why meditation's a big tool for us, and just going within and just learning to listen, but that's an art form, how to listen, to your own still small voice, that divine innocent child we call the magical child inside you, that's wanting to play life in such a way. And, I can tell you, just to piggyback on how important it is to not get focused on what you focus on, what we give our attention grows energetically. At the end of 21, and then I just felt myself just sideswiped by what was happening. And I just felt unsafe in this world because I was focusing on all the things that were going on. And it was bringing up anger. It was bringing up frustration. It was bringing up just hopelessness. And it sent me to the hospital for 10 days. And I ended up having double pneumonia, and I almost left this planet. And felt like I wanted to leave the planet because I was overwhelmed. But in that time, in that, chrysalis of sorts for 10 days, it was a matter of going, wow, there was a message that came from spirit, of being patient with the transition that we're in on the planet, but knowing that there's something happening, we can't see it all. And even in our own life, we've got this calling for this big thing, and it's having its journey, and it's going on its path up the mountain or in the valleys and all the things. But it's knowing that there's a timing that is not our timing, but to know that there's something happening. And it just came out of that time going, I don't want to put my focus on all that anymore. I want to focus on what we're here to do. People send out all this information all the time about what's happening and the conspiracies and the deep state and all this stuff that's going on. And yes, and it brings powerlessness when you focus on that, but to go, look, what are we here to do? This is what we want to create the world. We don't, Buckminster Fuller, one of our favorites, says, you don't change the world by resisting what's going out there. You create a model that makes the old one obsolete, and we create a world that works for everyone. And that's our piece of peace on earth, is to really, what can we do to cultivate divine love inside each soul and inside relationship. And, it's so important. I can just testify to that.
Definitely. So I'm curious, how did you end up coaching the interesting people with such a wide range of life backgrounds? And how did this even come about? Where did it start, first of all?
I'd say it started with an intention, probably, to want to make a difference. That's where it started many years ago, long before I became a coach. I've always had this unique ability to see things, when I talk with someone, and I can see what they want to create, and I usually see it bigger and brighter than they see. I actually see what they see, I think, in many cases, but they're afraid to see it that big. And there's some great stories in the book of conversations that unfolded like that, and what happened because of it. But I would say that through a lot of childhood challenge, and again, not because of my outside circumstances so much, but more about just how helpless I felt on the inside. I really yearned to feel a sense of safety and power that I did not feel in the outer, environment around me. And so I really sought to connect with anything that would help me, and that kind of made me a seeker, so to speak. And so I was always looking for things that had me see life in a more empowered way. And I definitely grew up in a spiritual home. My grandparents were very religious. So I definitely got Christian values growing up, although I consider myself more spiritual than religious now. So anyway, I've always been a seeker and wanting to find what would help me to live a life that felt like it was making a difference and to feel good. And on my journey of finding things, I would apply them. And then it just seemed to draw people to me. And they're like, what are you doing? That's interesting. And I'm like, oh, I don't know, just this thing. It's not that big a deal. And they're like, that's pretty cool. And they would try it and they would get value. So I just always kind of coached people, really, because I always wanted to help. And that's what's really meaningful about this message in this book for me is, in a way, this is the conversation I've been having with people for over 40 years, even as a little boy. I didn't use the words big thing, but I was always like, what do you really want? You know, I just loved asking that. I loved hearing it because it was a fun conversation. And it also kept my dream alive inside of me. And I think, you know, one of my intentions with the book is to build a community of people that really support each other and asking that question and encouraging and helping each other to realize it. Because I don't think we can do our big thing alone. In fact, you can't. That's one of those telltale markers. You can't do a big thing alone. So, and it's just more fun when we do it together. So back to your question, how did it start for me to coach? I just always have, people have kind of come to me and saying, hey, you know, how did you do that? Or what are you doing that's different about you? Why are you so happy in Hollywood? How are you getting jobs in Hollywood? And I'm not, and I'm fully connected and know lots of people. And I basically taught them the thing, you know, a lot of the internal things that I'd learned along the way, and they got great value. And so people were always saying, you need to do this. This is a thing. And I'm like, no, that's just me being Jeff. And they're like, no, like this is really valuable. And I had people saying, I'm going to pay you. You just have to tell me what it is. And I even resisted it in the beginning because I thought it was unethical. I shouldn't charge to just be a kind person to people. And it was after going into serious debt and struggling financially that, you know, I kind of had to wake up and go, okay, what's life telling me? And that sparked the whole big thing conversation. What's my big thing? And when I really got in touch with that, I was like, oh, okay. You know, and then when I really got clear on that, I mean, it just like, it didn't skyrocket overnight, but it was a, you know, it was a bumpy journey at times because I was going back and forth between my new and old way of being. But, but the people have always been there asking for help. And then I finally clarified it and then moved toward it. And it just kind of happens.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you just brother to brother, you know, conversations we've had. I mean, I'm a recipient of those questions in intimate conversations with Jeff. Just, you know, you always saw, you had a vision, you know, we would talk and I can look back and go, you know, it's conversations that you and I had that would allow that dream to not die. Like it's not, I'm not crazy. You know, there's something inside and it's important. You know, as a kid, for some reason, I was like, I can't just live a normal life. I've got to follow my dream. I left everything at 19 years old, came to Hollywood and always, and allow that, you know, and you say the dream, one big thing leads to another big thing and another big thing. And, you know, you've been following your North Star for a long time and you've allowed it to shift and witnessing you, brother, has just been a beautiful dance of life of what a soul can do and how now here we are and we're kind of getting close to the wrapping up of our time. You know, your big thing began somewhere along your journey, but today, Jeff, what is your big thing today?
Well, if I distill it into something really, you know, tangible, it is to help 1 million people clarify their big thing. It's the deeper, there's more to that, but that really is, because I believe that if 1 million people just clarified their big thing, it would give them hope, it would inspire them and propel them to do the work, to let go of what's been holding them back in a way that nothing else would. So just clarifying their big thing. To me, I think that would be a meaningful contribution. That's a big thing, you know, I think, but that's how I would answer that right now.
It's powerful. That's got so many layers and levels to it. But yeah, what a ripple effect that would create in the world to have 1 million people just begin that journey, and how that would transform individuals and relationships and possibilities in our communities. And that's pretty revolutionary. Thank you for holding that vision.
That and I just, my mind went to it. That's the tipping point. That's the 100th monkey effect. That's what
totally.
happens. Instead of trying to resist change, just come alive in what you're here to do. And if enough people, if 1 million people on the planet of 8 billion plus, doesn't take a lot of people, but at least 1 million people coming alive. My God, that excites me. Let me ask you this: how important do you think the big thing effect is on relationship?
It's a great question. Well, one of the things I talk about in the book, so the book it walks you step by step to clarify your big thing. And then I give the 7 keys based on my 20 plus years as a professional success coach, the 7 keys to getting it done. And there are stories that really illustrate those particular points. But one of the principles I talk in the book, I talk about our relationship with ourselves. And my relationship with another can only be as fulfilled as my relationship with myself. I will manifest my relationship with self in a romantic relationship, in a professional relationship. That will outpace even my relationship with the divine. So I think it's so important that in a relationship that we first work on our relationship with ourselves. Am I listening to my heart? Am I being the person, the encouraging, accepting, kind, compassionate, and supportive person that I want my partner to be for me? And when I really become, I talk about in the book is BYOB, be your own bestie. If I can't be my own bestie, I really can't be a great partner, because eventually I'm going to get, depleted and have nothing to bring to it. So I think that's a principle that is so important in life. It's so important to realize your big thing, but it's true, especially, in relationships and love. We got to tap into that quality within us and then bring it to the relationship.
Love that. It's a perfect way to wrap this up. Really, we just are so grateful and look forward to reading the rest of the book together. We read every morning together, and it'll be definitely at the top of our reading and digesting. So how can people get in touch with you? Where Jinx,
you guys are so cute.
So often, you have no idea.
We're running the same mind.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, there are a couple of things that I can give to your listeners too. One of which, if you go to thebigthingeffect.com, it's the book website. You can order some. You can click through to the book, which is on Amazon, or you could just Google The Big Thing Effect on Amazon, and that will take you to purchase the book. But on that website, thebigthingeffect.com, I've got the 7 telltale signs of a big thing. And if you want to review those, I expand on them a little bit more. So you can download that. You can also join the newsletter and find out upcoming events and stuff that's going on. I'm going to be adding videos and other content. By all means, like my Jeff Patterson Success Coach on Facebook, and you'll get more access to the book and some of the free goodies that I'm putting up to really try to get the message out there and help people clarify their big thing.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, brother. This is, our goal is, with some of our interviews and podcasts is to really give practical, powerful tools and tips on how to live your best life, on how to live truly an empowered life. And you've just given so much here in value. Thank you for your time. And all our love to you, Lindsay, and the family out there in Aspen, and, continued success. I know that, we learned when we wrote our book that, this is a calling card. This is going to open up conversations for you, Jeff. And, we hold that vision with you in the prayer field, that 1 million people come alive with their big thing that they're living. And it inspired, because when one star shining a little brighter, it gives the other stars the permission to shine a little brighter. So
we need each other
for being that burning star. So
thank you, brother.
And to you too, both to you.
you.
Thank you for your great work in the world and your amazing presence of love that you both bring. Jason, you've always brought it. So it's wonderful to see you really, touching the world with your hands.
No, thank you, brother.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. That's it for now. We'll see you on the other side.